Bitch, we already knew that. We found that out 12 years ago. I'm talking to the writers of Rings right now, not Julia. Did y'all really just take an hour and 15 minutes to reveal some shit we already knew? And Samara's origin story? Are you fucking kidding me? I waited all that time for this. Samara is evil as fuck. And all we get is that her father was a rapist priest. Shit, that's not even a stretch, let alone original. Damn it, we already knew Evelyn was her mother. And even if we didn't, the painfully predictable way that Rings was written, everything was so obvious. Nothing required big, shocking reveal moments, okay? It's bad enough we had to repeatedly hear Captain Obvious and her co-Captain Obvious boyfriend just speak the obvious out loud. That's what this whole movie was. Basically, we just followed Julia and her super useless ass boyfriend, watching her discover what we already know, with a bunch of made up details that you guys just added for no apparent reason. Listen, if you're going to create a sequel with one purpose being to reveal origin-based facts, how the fuck do you deviate from what was already established in the original films? There were very significant facts presented that you can't change for the sake of your cheesy-ass sequel prequel. And you know what? I've seen sequels that completely disregard the earlier films in the franchise, but if that's what you're going to do, it's all or nothing. You can't take bits and pieces of the previous movies, then give us something that doesn't even add up. I mean, like, while Julia was claiming that Samara was abandoned, they show a picture that, according to The Ring 2, was of Evelyn holding Samara at the facility where she was born. So before I even get into how horrible this film was, no matter how you look at it, I'm gonna point out that this whole Evelyn backstory was bullshit, and this whole fucking movie is offensive. Ugh, where do I even start? Please bear with me. I don't mean to be all over the place, but this horrible ass movie was all over the place, and I can't even organize my thoughts on how to approach such supreme levels of bullshit. But I'll start with this though. How did we go from Rachel meeting Evelyn in The Ring 2 to, oh, Samara was found abandoned and nobody knew who her parents were? Bullshit! Evelyn was in a facility run by nuns where she showed up 8 months pregnant. Samara was born there, and they lived there. Eventually, Evelyn tried to drown her, though. That's when she was institutionalized and Samara was put up for adoption. But in Rings, this current 2017 version, Julia specifically stated that Samara was abandoned and her parents were unknown. Then she was adopted. They found out she was evil, dumped her in a well. She lived for 7 days, and her body, quote unquote, was found years later. So Julia knew all that. But this movie completely disregards Rachel and her superior journalism investigative skills and everything she found out in The Ring 2. And it's not that they were implying that Julia just didn't have this information yet. The intention was that it never happened. The Ring 2 never happened, except the pieces they decided to steal from it to create something different and stupid. Watching Julia piece together the obvious was painful. So Rings is giving you two stories. A, what happened before Samara was born, and B, what happened after her body was found in the well. Both of these stories are fucking retarded. Never mind the shit with Gabriel and his experiment. I'll get to that later. Let me start with story A. What happened before Samara was born? The origin of this purely evil child. We finally get to find out why Samara is so fucking evil, right? Wrong. Let me break down for you the whole facts. They like 3 facts they gave us in this movie. Number 1, Samara's mother Evelyn was kidnapped and raped and impregnated by a priest who forced her to live under a church. Number 2, she had hallucinations during her pregnancy and supposedly wanted to kill the baby. Number 3, she somehow got away around 8 months pregnant and eventually abandoned her baby. This is the dumbest shit. Never mind the fact that it's implied in the first 2 films that Samara's origins are much darker than this, possibly even demonic and or otherworldly. In The Ring 2, Evelyn believed, and this is a quote from the nun, something had come for her baby from the waters of the world beyond this one. And we all know Samara has some kind of connection with water. Actually, in The Ring 2, the nun also said that Samara only cried when she was getting a bath. So walking into this film, fans of the franchise were expecting something that went along with what we'd already been given. But as far as origin goes, we got nothing. We got a dry ass Lifetime original story. A priest, a rapist. Half of the story we already knew was coming. We knew that pregnant chick was going to be Samara's mother, but thanks. Thanks for walking us through all that bullshit. So here's my one question, though, about this story, A. How did Evelyn get away? And not just from Burke, the blind priest, but out of Sacrament Valley. Julia sees images of Evelyn on the tape, okay, standing by the road, very pregnant, and on their way to Sacrament Valley, she sees her again. Technically, it's a hallucination, but at some point in real life, Evelyn was standing out on a road, okay? Was it that road? Not necessarily. But how the fuck else did she get out of that town? Either way, she just strolled on out the church and nobody in this small ass town saw the missing girl they had been looking for. She didn't think to go home. I mean, I know she was already having the hallucinations when she escaped. Maybe she wasn't in her right mind. I don't know. Just meant throwing some things out there. But nobody noticed her. And it doesn't make sense that Burke let her go. He wouldn't do that. He said he chained her up because she kept trying to kill her child. So he also wanted the baby. And I'm sure he didn't want anyone to know what he'd done. So, no, I don't think he let her go. He didn't drive her off somewhere and drop her off. This is a tiny town with, everyone who lived there knowing who she was and knowing she was missing. So how did she get out? I did contemplate that she was going to have a baby and he didn't want her to have it there. So maybe he did take her and drop her off somewhere. But still, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I don't know. So moving on to story B. And story B is what happened after Samara's body was found in the well. And according to Burke, Samara was being denied a resting place. And he heard about this. This part of the story, he told the story, but it's true. He figured out that was his daughter, and he wanted to bury her there in his little town. At this point, this story becomes so stupid. Who even cares anymore? It's inconsistent, full of plot holes, and it doesn't make any sense. So, regarding what happened, after she was found in the well, here's what we don't know, because they didn't bother to fill us in on anything that actually mattered. Number one, how did Burke know Samara was his daughter? Like, when he found out about the body with the bones in the well, he knew that was his daughter. Granted, Evelyn named her Samara. It was written on the wall in her room. I'm sure, given Samara's backstory, it would have been easy for him to figure it out. But they never went into this, so we'll never know. Unless there's another movie, of course. But the story we got from the first film about Rachel finding her, Rachel, it's not part of this film. And that's why Julia had to do all this damn investigating in the first place. They just said she was found in a well. And like I said, Rings carries on as if The Ring 2 never happened. And all that information learned from it is unknown or has been altered. So the next thing we don't know about the story. Okay, so Burke brought her bones to, his town, and he put them in that tomb thing. Then, according to him, he was pulled, to the grave, convinced she was trying to tell him something. He started having visions of things that, according to him, no one should have to imagine. And then he blinded himself because, according to him, Samara can't hurt him because he can't see her. But Samara burns images into your brain. Shouldn't he still be able to see them? Blind people can picture things mentally, especially ones who weren't born blind. So Samara should have been able to cause him to see those images. Blinding himself should only have kept him from seeing her if she appeared to him, which is possible, I guess. Maybe she had finally started appearing to him, at which point he blinded himself. Either way, I guess it accomplished something because I think it made her mad and she caused the flood. I don't know. None of this was really very clear. The timeline isn't exactly laid out for you, but obviously the flooding happened after he had been drawn to the grave. Then he lied about where her body was going, and he put her bones behind a wall in his house. What the fuck is even happening at this point? How the hell did that not make things worse for him? You brought the fucking bones in the house. This whole chain of events makes zero sense. And then Samara comes out at the end and unblinds him. Well, if she could do that, why didn't she just do it in the first damn place? Oh, because she needed someone to come release her bones. For what? Okay, whatever. One more question from this particular part of the story. What happened to Evelyn in this version of things? She didn't go to the place with the nuns and end up institutionalized for trying to drown Samara. So where the fuck did she go? Like I said, I don't think he dropped her off and let her have the baby, and then I don't know. None of this is. They're not. It's like they're giving you bits and pieces of stuff that we already only had bits and pieces of in the first place, and there's no real answers here. The movie just gave us a whole lot of nothing, and it was boring. It completely missed the overall dark tone and creepiness of the original films, and it just relied way too heavily on jump scares. If you were gonna go into this and change the origin anyway, maybe you should have just started over and left Evelyn out of it. Or, for those of you who don't know, there's a short film called Rings. It was released as a bonus feature on the Rings 2 DVD and as a bonus disc, I believe, when the Ring was re-released. And you can find it on YouTube. It's only like 15 minutes long, but basically it tells you what happened in between the Ring and the Ring 2. So it's about how Samara's tape became this cult thing, where young people, watched it and they document or record what happens to them for the next however many days, with the goal of trying to make it closest to 7 days. And when the person can't take it anymore, they have a tail who watches the tape next for them. Sound familiar? Gabriel, the professor, his extra credit? Yeah, that's where that came from. So the short film Rings takes place several months after The Ring, and goes right up until the opening scene of The Ring 2. And it stars that kid who tried to make the girl watch the tape in the opening scene of The Ring 2. There's a whole backstory that led up to that scene. I'm not going to tell you any more about it. Go watch that if you haven't seen it. I'll provide the link to it, but finish listening to this first. So now I just want to discuss really quick the remaining reasons why this film was so bad. I'm a huge fan of The Ring. The sequel, The Ring 2, was garbage, actually, but I accepted it. It was like a bad stepchild. Like, I don't know, I guess, if that's all you got. So this film, Rings, being part of what was once a respectable franchise, you have to ask yourself, was this a necessary addition to the franchise in the first place? The answer is kinda. There was potential there. The Japanese franchise has gone in a much different direction. There's no relation. But there was definitely potential to give us more information about where Samara came from. However, this shit was terrible. And then there's 2 actors in it who play geniuses on TV. Johnny Galecki from The Big Bang Theory and Vincent D'Onofrio from Law & Order Criminal Intent. They should have known better. And then this movie opens up trying to win the best opening scene in a horror film and failed miserably. So the story is really based around Halt, the useless eye candy, played by Alex Rowe, and his girlfriend Julia, the other useless eye candy, played by Matilda Lutz, who manages to give us one expression and one vocal tone the entire movie, even when the blind priest pinned her fucking head to the table. Ultimately, the story is about Samara trying to possess her. So, answer me this. Evelyn somehow caused the accident that killed Gabriel, right? Okay, but why? Well, to make them go back, they were trying to leave Sacrament Valley. But follow me for a second here. This whole movie is about the rebirth of Samara and Julia's journey to uncover what happened to her and where she came from, and eventually release her spirit by burning her bones. So, is Evelyn helping Samara get free? She has to know that's what's going to happen eventually if she leads them back to Burke. She has to know that's what Samara is up to if she's helping her. But she also knows Samara is evil. Why would she want her released? I'm so confused. To me, it's implied that Evelyn is helping them from beyond, but helping them do what exactly? Because even helping them find out what happened to her would lead them to Samara. And Evelyn would know that. Why would she help them release the child that she supposedly tried to kill while she was pregnant with it? Because it was evil. Listen, this shit don't make no goddamn sense. Or just isn't very clear. But the ultimate goal here was that Samara wanted to come back from death. And I'm sorry, she actually succeeded in coming back from death. And I don't even care. Technically, she came back in the ring too. So we're back to this movie really giving us nothing. Just, a perv priest and a flood. I give this bullshit a 0. Throw this shit away and start over. Thank you. Follow me on Twitter at MovieBuffChick1. Have a great day. Like, subscribe.